Hello and welcome to the Engerati studio here at European Utility Week. I'm joined now by Panama Bartholomy, who's the director for the investor, or one of the directors for the Investor Confidence Project. And first of all, welcome.
Thank you,
Nice to have you here.
Great to be here.
And I interviewed some of your colleagues when I was covering an event in Lisbon, but I kind of want to rewind. Almost some of those interviews maybe were too much in one area or another area. What I'd like to do is join the dots, if I may. Can you tell us about the Investor Confidence Project in terms of it as a product, and then we can talk a little bit more about the network behind it?
Absolutely, happy to, Adam. So right now, building energy renovations are really the last frontier on the energy investment landscape. You can invest in storage, you can invest in grids, you can invest in data, you can invest in batteries, vehicles, everything. You can't invest in building energy renovations right now. And largely what we need in order to make that happen is we need a tool to allow owners, building owners and investors to be able to have confidence in what's being sold to them, that it's actually going to be delivered.
So when you say you can't invest in energy efficiency or renovation projects or what have you, is that because it's much like it's new, so people are still finding the terms and terminology? And certainly in Lisbon, I got a lot of echoes around when there's another event I cover quite regularly, which is the Africa Energy Forum, where 4 years ago people were talking renewables, it never worked, we don't really understand it, and they went through a very similar journey to like normalizing the terminology so that people were getting the nomenclature right, getting the vocabulary
Exactly.
right. Is that where we are in this space?
That's exactly it. Right now with building energy renovations, every company does it differently. Even large companies do it differently in different countries. Every government runs a different program with different requirements. Every funding program does something different. And every financier, when they look at energy efficiency, they look at it in a different way. So that just doesn't work as far as an asset. That's not how you describe an asset.
Whereas it's inefficient as well.
Exactly.
Hugely.
And the point you just made about renewables, if you want to right now finance a wind turbine, you go to a financier that's interested in wind energy and they say, where's your P90 form? And your P90 form has all of the standardized nomenclature for the technical aspects of the project, so the financier can take a quick look and say, yes, I trust that this is actually going to produce what you're telling me. We don't have that for the energy efficiency space right now. It's a whole bunch of actors acting completely differently. And so when investors look at that, investors are looking for a pretty simple thing. Investors want vanilla ice cream every single night of the week. And we're basically bringing them a gelateria of all sorts of different flavors that look delicious, but there's always going to be one that ruins your day or ruins your portfolio when you invest in it. And so what we've developed is we've developed a certification tool that tells investors and building owners, this 30% savings that Siemens is promising you, you can trust it. And what this certification does, normally when we think of certifications for buildings, we think of LEED or BREEAM or DGNB or Neighbors in Australia, and those are all certifications for buildings. Once a green building has been built and is occupied, a certification goes on it, and there's a plaque in the hallway, and everyone says, great building.
Like in Portugal, they've got it outside of the building or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah. But for what we're doing, that's not the inflection point we're trying to hit. We're trying to hit the point of underwriting. The point where an owner or an investor is going to say yes or no on a project, and they need a tool to be able to use to give them confidence to take that leap. And so what our actual product is the Investor-Ready Energy Efficiency Certification. And what it tells an owner or an investor is that this project has been put together using the best practices in that country, the right professionals on the project, and that it's been documented in a consistent way so that you are going to be able to aggregate that project into portfolios and take them to the secondary market to securitize them.
So this is global, right? I know I was reporting about it at Lisbon in Portugal, but this is a global platform.
Currently, we're operating in the United States and in Europe, 31 countries across Europe. But we are right now actually exploring expansion into India, China, and Brazil as well.
So again, I want to break it down for our listeners. So we're here I assume this is online. Why wouldn't it be? You you put in all the data about your project, and it goes through and might give you some inputs of other things you haven't done, but you end up with a standardized output relevant to whichever country you're in. It says, okay, this is a well thought through project. And so what happens now? Do you then take that and run off to investors, or are you backing this whole thing up with a pool of investors that kind of sit behind that? Because that would create efficiency in the value chain as well.
Sure. So basically, buildings can be constructed all sorts of different ways around the world, but a building renovation is very simple. It's 5 steps. You develop the baseline, you do a savings calculation, you design, construct, and commission the building, you operate and maintain it, and you measure and verify the savings are actually being achieved. Every single country has slightly different standards and professional certifications for each one of those pieces. So what we're doing is, for the first time, we're aligning all of those into a common international framework. So whether you're in Lisbon, or whether you're in London, or whether you're in Alabama, you'll be able to follow your local standards and achieve a national certification. And so what we do is we train project developers about how to use our certification, and then we train quality assurance agents who then look at everything that they've developed, and they provide a certification. It's not a guarantee, but it's a certification that this is a top of class type project that's been developed. To your question about how we back it up, we have this group that we call the Investor Network. And these are investors that clearly see the need for a more standardized approach to energy efficiency, because it reduces their due diligence times. It really allows them to actually invest in energy efficiency. And for the institutional investors, it allows them to aggregate portfolios of projects. This investor network right now is about 35 investors representing just under $4.5 billion in capital, actively looking for projects. And so what we do is we train developers about how to deliver these projects. We train quality assurance agents about how to verify this to give confidence to owners and investors. And then we bring the investor community to these good quality projects as well. So we're building the landscape for good projects, and then we're connecting capital and development together.
Because that was one of the things that, again, I know we're at European Utility Week and we keep referencing this thing in Lisbon, but it's very relevant to this conversation. What the ESCOs were saying is, well, we can do all of this, but where's the money? And then I was like, the next interview was with an investor. They were like, well, I've got the money, but I'm not really sure that any of these projects will ever work, right?
Exactly.
So it's just fixing that up. So
it's exactly that.
So using your model, it's actually, if I'm an ESCO, I could go take part in it, put my project in, and actually I'm also being fast-tracked towards or getting visibility of my project to 30 investors, so I may actually get someone to go, you know what, that looks good, I'll take that.
Exactly. Because right now, if you're building a LEED building or a BREEAM building, when you go in to talk to the CFO or you go in to talk to an investor, you don't bring the 7 binders of technical documentation in. You bring the LEED certification in, and
Right.
they look at that, and that's a seal of quality to them. And so that's what we've developed for the underwriting stage of a project, is a seal of quality that they can trust. And so, to your point, we're bridging the gap, that we're bridging the language barrier between the technical community and the investor community, and finally giving them some currency that they can bank on to be able to communicate with each other.
And the other thing, as we're kind of coming to the end of time, what I found really interesting is that you've also got the insurance community involved, where there's an insurance product out there that will actually guarantee those savings. So it seems like, I mean, you guys must be flying, because it seems like everything is just aligning quite nicely.
Quite nicely.
Yeah.
When we view investors as a very broad term, we view investors as anybody that's got some financial skin in the game on a project. And so that could be the building owner, obviously, but it's also government agencies that are investing in those projects. It's insurers that are guaranteeing the savings. It's manufacturers that are investing in the project as well, and then obviously financial investors. And so all of them benefit from having a common songbook for everybody to sing off of, to be able to have greater trust in each other. Because without that, everybody is re-engineering everybody else's work, and it's a complete mess, and we never actually get the deal flow necessary that investors are looking for to build pipelines of projects.
And you're eliminating that, there's this wonderful Japanese word called muda, work that adds no value.
Exactly.
Right? And it seems to me that this is doing all of that. And we really are at the end of our time. So just very quickly, for those watching, if you can reel off some web links so that people can go and find out a bit more themselves. Is it investorprojectconfidenceproject.com, or what's the URL?
So our URL is eeperformance.org, or just Google Investor Confidence Project.
And that'll get us there. Excellent. Thank you very much for taking
the
time.
Adam. Really appreciate it.
And thank you as well for watching. This has been one of the close to 140 interviews and commentaries we're doing from European Utility Week this year, and I hope you enjoyed it.